My father neglected me for my whole life and cheated on my mom. Now he's trying to rekindle. My father neglected me my entire life, cheated on my mom, and now he's trying to rekindle our relationship. I'm torn between anger, sadness, and a glimmer of hope. My father was never present in my life. He was always busy with work, or so he claimed. I grew up feeling unloved, unworthy, and like a burden to him. My mother did her best to raise me, but the lack of a father figure left a gaping hole in my heart. To make matters worse, he cheated on my mom multiple times, breaking her heart and crushing our family. After years of silence, my father called me out of the blue. He claimed he wanted to reconnect, to make amends for his past mistakes. I was skeptical, but a part of me longed for a father's love and acceptance. We started talking, and he seemed genuinely interested in my life. We've been talking regularly, and I've seen glimpses of a caring father. He's asked about my life, my goals, and my dreams. He's apologized for his neglect and infidelity, and I believe he's sincere. But I'm still cautious. I don't want to be hurt again. We met in person for the first time in years. It was awkward, but also a relief. He looked older, worn down by life. We talked for hours, and I saw a glimmer of the father I always wanted. He's not perfect, but he's trying. We've had our ups and downs, he's made mistakes, and I've had to remind him of his past neglect and infidelity. But he's also shown me kindness, patience, and understanding. I'm learning to forgive, but it's a slow process. Trust must be earned. I'm starting to see a different father, one who cares and wants to be present in my life. I'm still cautious, but I'm willing to give him a chance. Maybe, just maybe, we can build a relationship worth having. But I'll never forget the pain he caused, and I'll always prioritize my own well-being. Thank you, Reddit, for your support and guidance on this journey. I'll keep you updated on our progress. I hated my parents when I was younger cause my autistic brother got basically everything. It took a life-altering event to change it. 130 meters have an autistic younger brother, 28. He was diagnosed with autism at 3 years old. I didn't understand it at first, and I admit that I was somewhat mean to him. Partly cause he couldn't stop me, but also partly cause, isn't that what brothers do? Anyway, after he was diagnosed, all our lives changed. What used to be about finding common ground for everyone turned into what's best for him. It didn't really hit until I was in the 3rd grade, for a couple reasons. Mainly cause I started to understand the way my life would be for the next almost 15 years. Also partly cause that's when I started getting bullied, but that's a different story for a different day. From the 3rd grade, we started doing everything together. Like I didn't get hardly anything that was about me, unless it was a birthday meal. When I fully understood what was going on, I began to resent my parents. I would often sneak out and stay at my friend's house, lie to his grandpa about it being okay with my parents if I could stay there, just so I could get away. When I wasn't at home, my life was great. I got to play video games, run around, and basically be a kid, which is what I wanted to do all along. When I returned home, I got yelled at, which I deserved for sneaking out, but it still hurt. Needless to say, I knew nothing would change until I moved out. Well, fast forward to about 4 years ago. After all that had been going on since I was about 9, my future wife and I bought our house. Nothing special, but it's a start. Even after we had bought the house, I was expected to stay at home and help care for my brother, even though my fiancée at the time was at our house by herself and left in the middle of the night without saying goodbye. I went to my house and slept in my house with my fiancée. The next morning, I woke up to over 20 missed calls and 30 to 40 text messages, and they all said the same thing: get your ass home now. I simply replied, no, I'm 26 years old, and I am living with my fiancée. I told her what I told my parents, and she praised me for standing up for the right thing. From that point on, things got a lot better for me. We planned our wedding, got married, and yes, my parents and brother came. Then about a week after we got married, my mom told me I need to come out to the house. It's important. They lived about 35 to 40 minutes away, and I was tired, so I didn't want to drive that far. But she insisted I go, so I did. When I got there, they told me that they were getting a divorce. It hit me like a freight train. I didn't see it coming, but looking back now, I'm glad they did. They always fought, usually about money. But then, things changed. My dad stayed in the house, and my mom moved closer with her family about 2 hours away from my house after they fully divorced. Things changed for the better. My relationship with both my mom and dad improved significantly. Aida for wanting to leave family behind and start over. I 23F have this Slavic family. I think you know where I will go from here. When I was 16, my parents got divorced, and I wasn't in right mental state because it was a lot on me. My mental health wasn't treated and got only worse. My family at first support me. But then, when I couldn't get jobs so far for years, they shut all support. They called me lazy, fake, liar and more. My fiancé M19 was on calls and was really upset at them. I visited him multiple times and my family was really upset about it. They treat me like kid, and adults keep switching. I tried to once attempt a job, but I got heavily stressed out and miss out. Family that day got really upset at me and yell at me like they always do. It pushed me to my limits and I called professional on phone. I told them what happened and they told me I'm unstable to sustain a job at this moment. As I was whole time naive, I thought they will change, but they never did, because my own mother left me to start her new family. She wants me to call her, wants me to visit, wants me to message. Maybe I just don't feel like it at all. I planning this year or next year to move to my fiancé, even supposed to visit him and our friends on my birthday in some days. My uncles ruined my life and university experience. So I'm a male, originally from a Muslim country, came to North America for my studies in a pretty prestigious university. I expected my years here to be the best in my life, but after my first, it only has been the worst. Back to before university, I was not an easy kid. I did a lot of bad things that are normal for non-Muslim families, but not for Muslim ones. When I first came here during Frosh, I unfortunately tried alcohol and got in a really bad state where I could barely walk. My mom was here at the time. When I came home, she saw the state I was in and got furious. She was about to bring me back to my country, saying that I don't deserve their money spent on me. After a long convincing session, she decided to leave me here. Live with aunt, single, no kids, under some rules, which my two uncles living here dictated. Rule 1. They control my phone, location, messages, everything in my phone. Rule 2. Not going out unless I get the permission. Rule 3. Random alcohol and other drugs tests at first except for Rule 1. It seemed pretty fair to me as a not an outgoing person, and I was not planning to drink or do any drugs, but as times passed I realized how fucked it was. But every time I asked my uncles permission to go out, they rejected it, so I ended up with no friends, which really hurt because I'm a person that loves meeting new people. Their personality is fucked up. They stopped answering my calls, so I didn't bother to call them anymore. As I was pretty used to not going out, it was awkward to go without friends as everybody is in groups. Quick PS, one of my uncles had my parents' money and was charged to give me what I needed to pay bills, eat, etc. 3 weeks ago, when the second term came to an end, there was a festival at the campus. So I decided to go. It was nice. Met a lot of people. The entry fee was to buy at least 3 tickets for drinks. So I got a drink, a soda without alcohol. Nothing to worrying about, but when I was drinking my third drink, halfway through it, I noticed that I felt a little kind of burn in my throat. When I looked at the can, it was 5% alcohol. I panicked, went home immediately, and prayed that my uncles won't do the test. The next day my fear came true and my uncle came to test me, but before that they didn't know I went out, or they knew through my location in the phone, but I did not tell them. And I did not tell my mother either, because it was a last-minute decision and my mom was at an event that night, so I did not want to bother her. When the test was done, it was positive, no surprise. I tried to explain everything to my uncle, but he did not want to hear any word from me and was going to report everything. He thought he knew to my mother, and knowing her impulsive character, it would be very bad. I could not think of something. I was shocked PF how unfair the situation is, and just prayed that everything goes well. But my aunt, whom I lived with, believed me and told me she will handle things. She called my father, told him what happened, and told him to call my uncles to tell them not to say anything to my mother. That kind of hurt their pride. They don't like people telling them what to do, but they decided not to call my mom. I called the one who tested me at least 17 times, but ended up blocking my number. My father believed me because he is pretty rational and thinks before acting, unlike my mother and uncles who act before thinking. So even if I was to explain to them what happened, they would still react badly and probably won't believe me. For 2 weeks, everything was good. No one told my mother, but when I asked my uncle to give me money to pay my bills, my mother's money, he said he won't send any money unless my mother and her only told him to. Problem is, if I tell my mom to ask him to send me money, she will know that something is wrong. Fortunately, I got a job and could pay on my own, but that cannot continue like that because when I'll have to pay the school fees, I can't do it on my own. I don't know what to do. My aunt told me to talk to my mother once I meet her. I am going back home in a month to avoid any kind of stupid reaction from her and have her in front of me, so it would be easier for her to believe me. But my gut tells me that the longer I wait, the worse it is going to be. I can't tell my father to talk to my uncles because they will refuse since it is my mom's money. Story about this one boy. One time in 4th grade, there was a boy that my BSF liked. But then soon she started talking about him so much that I started to like him, and I felt so wrong and devastated because that's like a big deal. And the thing was, he was close to both of us, and I felt weird. One day on the playground, I told her that I liked him too, but I would let her have him because she's the one who liked him first and she's the reason I began liking him. But then she told me that she doesn't like him anymore and doesn't mind. I was honestly surprised, but was also quite happy. So I began liking this guy, and this guy was ... kind of weird, to be honest. Whenever we had to walk, he would try to race me. I didn't really mind anything he did because I liked him. At that time, I was number 1 at typing agent. I was the top student number 1 at typing agent, but then he began doing it too and beat me. I was shocked. And the thing was, all the boys were joking about it. I hated it so much that I started hating him. And the thing is, he didn't even continue doing other lessons once he reached first place. He did the same lesson over and over and getting the same points. I was so fucking mad at him, but I tried to not get hella defensive. Soon I quit doing typing agent because I hated seeing him first place. I'm pretty sure he liked me at that time, but just joked with me a lot because he's not the type to confess. In 6th grade, he moved back here for some reason, and it was like those plot twists in movies. Seeing him was crazy, but now I don't like him anymore and realized I should have never liked him in. My neighbor hired my little brother, so I be at tee him up, and his son. I 17M lived in a small villa in the Philippines. I have a little brother 10M. My brother is deaf and don't know how to form words, so he's like a baby. The only words he can form is mama and papa. He knows sign language, but not everyone knows sign language, so no one really knows what he was trying to say. We have this married couple moved in our neighborhood 45 meters, and 42F they have 3 sons. And their youngest is the same age as my brother. Their son tends to bully my brother a lot because of his condition, and my mother tried talking to this boy's parents, but they just brush it off and say they're just playing. One day I got home from school and my brother rushed home crying. I learned from our neighbor, which is a close friend of my mom, that the father of the boy who bullies my brother hit my brother in the head because my brother hit his son. Just to clarify, my brother does not hit someone unless he's provoked. He probably have enough of his bullying. Back to the story. So the guy hit my brother. My mom is furious and calls my father. I hear him shouting at the phone that no one have the right to hit his boy, and he will confront him once he got back from work. As I saw my brother crying and traumatized, I have enough. I got to my room and grabbed my collie sticks and confronted the MF who hit my brother. To be clear, I'm skinny ass and have no experience on any martial art whatsoever, and I was scared even being there, but because of that there's a rush of adrenaline in me. He came out shouting on how I fucked up confronting him and causing a commotion, but as he got out of their gate, I rushed him and hit him on his head. I didn't stop until his eldest son 19 meters rushed me and start beating me up. I grab a stone and smack it on his head. He falls unconscious, then his other son 17M comes out with a knife. I threw rocks at him even though many miss hitting their windows, breaking them. He threw the knife, but fortunately it didn't hit me. I rushed him inside their home and beat him in front of his little brother and his mother until some neighbors come in and break the fight. Default. My mother is trying to take me from my sister. So a little backstory: my mother has been mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive all my life. The people who helped me get out after what happened was my brother 20 meters will be called L, his fiance 19 at the time will be called Z, and my sister 19 at the time will be called K. The situation that started this was rebellion teenager stuff about how I didn't want to give her my phone. I ended up giving it to her. We were parked at my grandparents'. I wanted to get out of the car, so she locked the door. I got nervous because she's done this before, and it didn't end well. L was yelling at her to unlock the door because he seen the look on my face. She said fine, then she got out, unlocked the doors, and was heading to the back driver's seat, which was where I was sitting. I quickly locked the door, and she reached her hand around the door to unlock it. And I still to this day don't know why I didn't do something to stop her. She unlocked it, opened the door, and yanked me to the gravel ground. I stood up and started to walk away. She grabbed me and slammed me into my grandpa's green truck, got a concussion, and started hitting me. This is the point my brother started recording. I put my hands up and my face to my knees. Everything was blurry and quiet. My brother came over and quickly got her off of me. Z grabbed me by my arm and took me inside. I ran to my grandma's bathroom and started crying, where she came to comfort me. About 30 minutes of me crying and pacing the bathroom, I went outside after my grandma told me. She left and sat on her porch. Z convinced me to call the cops on my mom. I told them what happened, and they went to get her side of the story as well. While I stayed at my grandma's, they told me not to leave for 24 hours, so I stayed there after many statements and a short sleep. I went to my sister's, 35 minutes away. She had no idea any of this happened. K called my local police department and asked what was going to be done with me. They said they will get in contact with DCFS to come visit us straight away. The 1 year is over, and now my mother wants me back. Now my sister fears that if she calls DCFS that I will be taken to foster care because my mom isn't fit and the house isn't stable enough to have a child living in it. She turns 21 in January, 8 months away, and she might possibly not be able to have me if my mom calls DCFS to reopen the case. This was really long, but I want to know anyone's opinions on if K can take me now she's 20 or not.